everybody remove their hats, please. Thank you. Thank you. Mary Kay, roll call, please.
Dr. Bardo?
Here.
Bobby Brown?
Here.
Jill Maddox Nelson?
Here.
Kristen Matt Miller?
Here.
Andy Mary?
Present.
Danny Hyatt?
Here.
Angie Schreiber? J.D. Schrader? Catherine Solon?
Okay, we have a quorum of the board present, so we can continue with business. The first item of business that I have from our attorney is a press announcement for immediate release for July 17, 2023. And this is regarding Superintendent Dr. Julie Sprague's announces retirement. The Unified School District of Antigo Board of Education announced today that Dr. Julie Sprague, the district superintendent, has submitted a notice of retirement to the board. Quote, I have been honored to serve as your superintendent for the last 5 years, and I'm grateful to the wonderful students, families, dedicated staff, and school board members of Antigo, said Dr. Sprague. And then she further stated, I wish only the best for the district as it moves forward. And then my quote is, on behalf of the school board, I would like to thank Dr. Sprague for her years of service to the Unified School District of Antigo, and we do wish her well. The board will take action to accept Dr. Sprague's resignation at its meeting on July 17, 2023. The Board of Education is in the process of finalizing a contract for a new superintendent. As this announcement was written this morning, the board conducted interviews in the past with candidates, and we do have a candidate that has accepted the offer and signed the contract of the position of the superintendent for the Unified School District of Antigo, and that new superintendent is with us tonight, and she's sitting to my right, and that is Ms. Glenda Ojenski. Ms. Glenda Ojenski, would you please stand, please, so everybody can see you. Welcome to the school district. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Prior to people coming to the podium, I just want to read some of the rules and regulations for us to keep the quorum in this room. To permit fair and orderly public expression, the board shall provide a period for public participation at every regular meeting of the board and publish rules to govern such participation in board meetings. The presiding officer of each board meeting at which public participation is permitted shall administer the rules of the board for its conduct. And the rules are as follows. Public participation shall be permitted before the board takes official action on any issue of substance. Attendees must register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to preface their comments by an announcement of their name and group affiliation if and when appropriate. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration. There will be a clock on the screen that will give us that 5 minutes duration, and also Mary Kay will be the timekeeper for that speaking time. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to the staff or other participants. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. The presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statements when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. The portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 60 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board, and that is according to policy number 0167.3, item J. Having said that, could I have the list of public participation? Please forgive me in advance if I mispronounce a name that's on the list. The first one on the list is Carol Bardot.
Good evening. I was compelled to respond to the ongoing and recent events and necessary changes in the Antigo School District. All changes, regardless of whether they are good or bad, are stressful. In the case of our school district, they were warranted. Our poor performances necessitate that. Due to the declining student proficiencies, escalating misbehavior, poor morale, and an exodus of student and staff, the voters in this district, with their votes, asked for change. The new majority listened and have made steady and sometimes very difficult decisions for the sole purpose of identifying the problems, refocusing the goal of public K-12 education to learning, and improving the school district. Much work is yet to be done, but I and many commend them for their perseverance and courage. I have sat through and watched numerous board meetings in recent years and found it very disheartening that the administration and some staff repeatedly identified COVID and poverty as the primary reasons for Antigo School District low student performance. Granted, the rest of Wisconsin, the U.S., and the world we all survived COVID, but the reality, our districts were closed from March 20th to June 20th, and classes resumed 4 days per week starting September 20th. That was 3 years ago. We must be mindful that there were 412 school districts in Wisconsin that scored higher than the Antigo district, and they also had to deal with COVID. Poverty, I think, is another story. I did a bit of research and combined it with some of the data I previously shared. All the information I am sharing is readily available online. Per Index Monday, the Wisconsin county with the lowest percentage of residents living below poverty is Ozaukee County, with a 4.2% of poverty. The Wisconsin county with the highest percentage of residents living below poverty is the Menominee County with 26.5%. Langlade County is listed as 12.7% with a state average of 11%. I decided to look at how our district's state test scores in reading and math proficiency and our county's poverty levels have compared over the years. I utilized the DPI district report cards, tradingeconomics.com, Data USA, and Langlade census report as sources. In 2016-17, Brian Mesfelt was our superintendent. Our state test ranking was 350 out of 420 districts. Our poverty level was 15.9 to 16. In school year 2017-18, Dr. Tim was our superintendent. Our state ranking was 280 out of 421. Our poverty level dropped to 14 to 14.8%. In 2018-19, Julie Sprague became our superintendent. That year, our test score ranking was 409 out of 419. That's 10 from the bottom. Our state poverty level, though, continued to drop to 13.2 and 14%.
Carol, time.
Excuse me?
Time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. I just want to say also, when you come to speak, please be sure that you speak into the microphone so that all may hear you. Our second speaker is Glenn Siegman.
Hello all. My name name is Glenn Sigmund. I'm a former resident of Antigo and a graduate of Antigo High School. Although I no longer live in this community, I have been engaging with many members of the community more frequently the past couple of years, some that I know personally and others that I do not. And I've grown increasingly concerned about what I've seen become of my hometown. I've been asked to speak to the school board about a couple of things on their behalf. The first item, in accordance with the Wisconsin Public Records Law Compliance Guide, I would like to request all incoming and outgoing emails from all board members dated back to April 24th, 2023, including those archived on backup tapes. In addition, as I'm sure you all know, when personal devices are used in the service of your official duties, they also become part of the public record. This isn't limited to just emails. It also includes social media posts, such as those on Facebook, including those in private groups and direct messages, as well as text messages. I have reason to believe that the board members have been using personal devices for their school board duties, and that board members have used their phones during public board meetings. For example, Angela Schreiber used her phone during the June 26, 2023 board meeting at approximately 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 50 seconds into the meeting, as seen on the school district YouTube link. I also have several screenshots of board members Danny Pyatt and Bobby Braun addressing school board matters in a private Facebook group called Antigo Advocates for Freedom and Liberty. I have printed out copies to hand out for anyone interested in those. Also of note is that the following 6 board members were members of that same private Facebook group: Danny Pyatt, Bobby Braun, Angela Schreiber, Catherine Solon, Kristen Matt Miller, and Jill Maddock Nelson. I am requesting records of the board's personal computers, phones, and all of its business-related documents, posts, direct messages, emails, text, deleted or otherwise, dated back to April 24th, 2023, to be handed over as part of the public record. Just before I started speaking tonight, I sent you all an official request for this information by email, and have also printed copies of that email for anyone interested in that. According to the Wisconsin Records Law, Open Records Law, the deletion of any of this information after this request is criminal. The next item I would like to address is bullying. It is the #1 concern I hear from parents and students from this community. Although bullying happens to a diverse group of people, today I would like to address the bullying of a specific group, the LGBTQ+ community. First, some statistics provided by the organization Stomp Out Bullying. 9 out of 10 LGBTQ+ students reported being harassed and bullied last year. Over 1/3 of LGBTQ+ students are physically assaulted at school because their sexual orientation and gender identity are different than those of cis heterosexual students. Over half of all students report hearing homophobic remarks at school. About 1/3 report missing at least 1 day a month of school due to fear for their personal safety. The average GPA for students who were frequently harassed because of their sexual orientation was half a grade lower than other students. LGBTQ+ students are twice as likely to say that they're not planning on finishing high school. Next, I would like to provide some quotes from posts shared publicly on social media by members of this very school board. I may lose friends over this, but the rainbow is a symbol of God's promise to never flood the whole earth again. It is not a symbol of some of the sins that provoked the flood. Shared by Danny Pyatt on Facebook, June 6, 2022. Abraham Lincoln once asked an audience how many legs a dog has if you count the tail as a leg. When they answered 5, Lincoln told them that the answer was 4. The fact that you called the tail a leg did not make it a leg. That includes a photo of transgender swimmer Leah Thomas, shared by Danny Pyatt on Facebook, March 26, 2022. What would you do if your 14-year-old daughter went to school and a man comes in the bathroom and says he's a trans person, and he takes a shower with your 14-year-old daughter? That's from a video shared by Angela Schreiber on Facebook, May 10th, 2023. You know, bullying isn't just kicking, punching, or shoving. It's also about how you make people feel. It's about whether you include them or make them feel like outcasts. Bullying is learned behavior, and if you want to know where these kids are learning that behavior, take a look in the mirror. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, our third speaker is Wayne Gagnon. Wayne Gagnon.
Good Good evening. I'm Wayne Gagnon, former school board member and former teacher in the Antigo School District. The other day I was forwarded an email put out by the Republican Party of Langlade County criticizing Dr. Sprague for, among other things, promoting CRT values, ICS for equity, and DEI. CRT, critical race theory, is not being taught in our schools. But no matter what you call it, our students need to know the real history of this country and the world, the good and the bad, without being made to feel guilty for what happened in the past or marginalized because of the conditions and circumstances they're born into. They need to know the truth, and it needs to be taught by highly qualified teachers. ICS, Integrated Comprehensive Systems for Equity, is an organization that endorses 65 titles of movies, books, articles, etc. that address race, gender, immigration, disabilities, poverty, religion, and other social issues. This ties in with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which promotes the principle that everyone deserves the same respect and opportunities regardless of gender identity, ethnicity, religious or cultural background, abilities, or age. These are also things that our students need to be aware of. I'm not religious by any stretch of the imagination, and I fully support the First Amendment, which states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I try to be a good person. I was raised Roman Catholic and attended Catholic school in Chicago in the late 50s and early 60s through grade 9. I've read the Bible from cover to cover, and for several years I was involved in a Christ Care Bible study group through Peace Lutheran here in Antigo. In the New Testament, Jesus told us to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, shelter the homeless, and help those less fortunate than ourselves. In Matthew 25, verse 45, Jesus said, that which you do not did for me, you did not do, that which you did not do for others, you did not do for me. So over 2,000 years ago, Jesus was endorsing the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And these are the same principles that every major religion in the world has been founded upon. Are you saying our children should be sheltered from these? The email goes on to address the poor performance of students in Antigo. According to the Antigo Daily Journal, at the June 26th school board meeting, one of our high school students spoke up about the lack of disciplinary structure at the high school and said that he and many other students no longer feel safe. I've heard the same thing from other students and their parents. I've also heard it from teachers, guidance counselors, instructional assistants, substitutes, secretaries, custodians, and lunch ladies, all of whom work at the high school building. Things are out of control, and as the old saying goes, the inmates are running the asylum. This isn't a failure of Dr. Sprague, but a failure at the building level. If you want student performance to improve, listen to the veteran teachers while you still have them. They're the ones who know through experience what's needed in the classroom and the building. They're the experts. They know what will and what won't work. Give them a seat at the table. Make them a part of the conversation. They're probably the single most valuable and available resource you have. They have years of hands-on experience in the classroom behind them, which is something most board members don't have. I served on the board briefly, and although Dr. Sprague and I disagreed on some issues, there was always a mutual respect between us. I don't see that respect from the majority of this board, nor from the Republican Party in Langlade County. The email I received tells me that both parties are more concerned with promoting an ultra-right-wing conservative agenda and stroking their own egos than they are the welfare of the students and staff at the Antigo School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Our next speaker we have is April Kolpak.
My name is April Kolpak. I teach at West Elementary, and I was born and raised in Antigo. When I first began my journey as a teacher, I heard of colleges that would discourage people from teaching in Antigo. Because of that, I was never interested in applying here. Luckily, I had the opportunity to complete my student teaching in the district where, under great leadership, my perspective completely shifted as I witnessed what was actually happening. I truly felt proud to come back to teach in my hometown and no longer wanted to teach elsewhere. However, it's becoming increasingly difficult to feel that same sense of pride when I see the outright embarrassing things happening now, but it's not within the classroom nor during school hours. I came across the Wisconsin School Board Association's Handbook for new members. I'm not sure if any of you have had the chance to read it, but I found some interesting things. The following is taken from that handbook. The work of a board member requires caring, skills, and cooperation. All the while, we must concentrate on our purpose, educating every child every day. Our administrators, teachers, and support staff are so important in helping students get the skills they need in life. As board members, we need to encourage and appreciate all the work that is done by so many. School board members are uniquely positioned to be advocates for children. There are many qualities important to school board membership, including an open mind and readiness to learn, a vision and ability to understand changes in our society, a willingness to invest the hours that will be necessary to faithfully discharge your duties, freedom from conflict with any other interests, the capability to articulate the philosophy and goals of the school and to listen carefully to the criticisms offered by people with differing views, a commitment to the belief that all children are entitled to a beneficial educational program. Now some things from our own district. Our mission statement: the Unified School District of Antigo ensures high levels of learning for each and every student through high-quality instruction. Our vision statement reflects that every student and staff member experiences a sense of belonging and authentic supportive relationships. And finally, from our own policy handbook, section 1000, administration PO 1662, bullying is defined as any unwanted and repeated written, verbal, or physical behavior, including threatening or insulting, that is severe or pervasive enough to create an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment, cause discomfort or humiliation, or interfere with the individual's school or work performance or participation. It may involve teasing, threats, intimidation, cyberbullying, sexual, religious, racial harassment, or public humiliation. Harassment also includes hate speech, the use of language, behavior, or images that express prejudice against particular groups on the basis of any characteristics. I would like to emphasize to you that you are an institution that operates as a public school system with the fundamental purpose of providing education to all students, regardless of anyone's personal beliefs. It is our collective responsibility, including yours, to ensure that each and every student receives the high-quality education that they rightfully deserve. However, it seems that some individuals within the board have difficulty comprehending the reasons behind our struggles in retaining teachers and students in our district. We must recognize that the current environment of fear and lack of acceptance is hindering students' access to the education they need. As a consequence, we face ongoing challenges in filling teaching positions, and our district is at risk of losing further funding to private schools or homeschooling through our state's open enrollment and voucher system. It is evident that many students and teachers feel uncomfortable and unwelcome within our district due to the apparent contempt for differences displayed so openly by members of our board. In fact, even with all of the certified vacancies we currently have, there are no certified hires on this month's agenda. It is crucial to understand that the root cause for this does not lie with other students, the majority of our leadership, nor Dr. Sprague. If you truly want to understand the rapid decline of our district and the large number of staff openings, I encourage the board to take an introspective look at themselves. Are you promoting an inclusive, welcoming environment to each and every member of our school community, or are you promoting one that is hostile and intimidating? Furthermore, I implore you to consider the ramifications of diverting scarce district funds towards unnecessary contract buyouts for individuals who do not align with your personal preferences. Our district is already financially strained, and allocating resources in such a manner exacerbates our challenges and is fiscally irresponsible. I ask that you consider your duties set forth by the state of Wisconsin and as prescribed by the School District of Antigo within your very own code of conduct. Your duty does not reside with a political party. Your duty is to advocate for children, to create a sense of belonging for everyone, to serve each and every child. Ask yourselves if you are able to set aside personal beliefs to fulfill your responsibilities as an elected board member and to concentrate on your purpose, to serve every child, every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jenna Carpenter.
I'm Jenna Carpenter, and I teach also at West Elementary. It seems to be that much of your grievances with Dr. Sprague and our district health stem from our standardized test scores. I am here to shed some light on that for us today. Firstly, I would like to point out a hierarchy of needs. Essentially, we need to understand that all persons have basic needs that need to be met before they are able to essentially access other parts of their brain. Among those basic needs include things like food, water, shelter, as well as a sense of security and even a sense of belonging. These are the first 3 tiers out of 4 that must be met before an individual is able to access things like, say, their education. Things like trauma from growing up in poverty or unsafe households, or even going through a worldwide pandemic, have a deeply negative impact on a person and creates great obstacles for them to overcome before they are able to access those other parts of their brain. In our district, a substantial percentage of the population lives in poverty, ranging from 58% to 85% among our economically disadvantaged students. This means that a significant portion of our students start their school careers at a disadvantage, facing additional hurdles before they can fully engage and thrive academically. To address this, it is crucial to prioritize social-emotional learning alongside academic instruction. Let's talk about our curriculum. Our previous ELA curriculum was a remnant of prior personnel. There was no curriculum pilot, review, or scoring. It was a decision made by a previous district administrator and previous curriculum director and approved 9-0 by the school board, which includes some of you. In case you are wondering, that very same curriculum has since been discredited and overhauled by its own author in attempts to build a curriculum that gets closer to the science of reading and doesn't fail kids. This curriculum did not effectively meet the needs of our students and only added to their challenges. It is important to give the new curriculum a chance to make a positive impact, which was carefully chosen with deep reflection by a dedicated group of teachers. There seems to be a never-ending complaint of our district's test scores. Keep in mind that we have not had a decent ELA curriculum. I'm not sure how many of you or our community members are aware of this, but it is worth noting just how much of a school score is based on one standardized test a year. It is also important that the school board articulates this correctly when confronted in the community. The restructuring of our grade levels resulted in our elementary schools hosting only one grade level taking the state standardized test, which means that up to 85% of a school's score relies solely on the performance of approximately 30 some 8 and 9-year-olds. This places a significant amount of pressure on these students who may be experiencing test anxiety for the first time in their lives. As third grade teachers, we have students who come in on the first day of school and express fears of taking the forward exam in April. This test can't tell you how much progress a student has made in a year or their academic career. It can't tell you what kind of person they are, that they spent their recess pushing a 4K student on the swing, or came out of their shell and made new friends at a new school because they felt cared about. It doesn't tell you that they lost their pet that week, but they still have to show up and take a high-stakes test. A test that is taken in April, a full month and a half before the school year is even over. A full month and a half of content that we haven't been able to go over yet. It can't even accurately tell you if the student actually knows what is being tested, if their test anxiety is so high they can't even stomach a breakfast that first morning. It tells you how well students were able to answer questions during a 1 or 2 week period. Placing such importance on a single snapshot of our students' abilities seems unreasonable, especially when considering the diverse backgrounds and challenges they face, compounded by the limitations of our previous ELA curriculum. A curriculum that had to be supplemented for over a month at the third grade level just to try to better prepare our students for state testing. Instead of using our school's report card that is based on one standardized test per year, I encourage you to assess the district's health through our alternative means. Observe our dedicated staff in action. witness the positive experiences happening in our schools, and engage with our students and staff to gauge their sense of belonging. If you seek data, consider examining growth data that captures students' progress from the beginning to the end of the year. There is much more to evaluating a district's health than relying solely on a single test score.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Next, we have Darlene Jansen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Darlene Jansen, and I am speaking. I had signed up to speak twice. The first thing I was going to speak about, if we have time, I'm going to move that to the end. But what I am speaking on now is as the school nurse. You see, there has been a snapshot of the pride flag that I put on my door in the office. And it was so rudely and disrespectfully labeled as the Alphabet Mafia flag on the Antigo Advocate for Freedom and Liberty. Yeah, disrespectful. And because it was put on there, all of a sudden, Pastor Pyatt contacted a lawyer to see what grounds you have to make me take it down. You also are contacting a lawyer to write a policy. So there is no symbolization in support of the LGBTQ in our school. That is totally wrong. We are here for all the kids. We have a huge population of the LGBTQ population and community in our school. No one of you, not one, asked me why I had it on my door. Not one. Instead, you go right to a lawyer to have it removed. Really? Why? What is this community doing to you personally? How is this community of kind-hearted, strong individuals doing to each of you? Absolutely nothing. And yet you're making me become someone and say I can't advocate for them. I am in this district to make sure every student is safe, every student is healthy, and everybody has a safe environment in which to learn. Bullying is a huge issue. Do you know, this is from the Trevor Project, 49% of the kids who identify within the LGBTQ community are at high risk of suicide. 49%. And I believe it's about a 33% who actually attempt. If I can be an advocate, I provide a safe place for these kids to come and talk. These kids can come in and know they're not judged for who they feel they are. I can save one child from going home and self-harming and cutting or drinking alcohol, using illegal substances because they're not accepted here and they're not accepted by peers. If I can save one from not going home and taking a handful of pills or attempting suicide or maybe even becoming successful, then it's worth having the LGBTQ pride flag on my door. You guys have labeled, a lot of people have labeled them as being wrong. And one of you had actually said, God created man and women, he was not confused. You're right, God's not confused. What if, instead of them being so wrong, what if they're so right? You know, the last couple of years, that same Facebook page had really damaged my credibility in this town. Two of the current board members were very active, and the wife of another one was extremely active in damaging me as a professional nurse. But I came out stronger. So I know what it's like to be ridiculed. And I learned how the people are unkind and heartless, people that I respected. But here's the thing. You think the people in the LGBTQ are so wrong? What if they're so right? What if God brought them to the surface, which, by the way, they have been around for decades, like decades. But what if they're so right? What if the purpose is to teach us? Darlene. Okay.
Thank you,
I will
Darlene.
be back.
Thank you. Next, we have Ryan McCarthy.
Good evening. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I was a former student representative to the school board here for my junior and senior years prior to graduating high school here. I am now also a bowling coach for the Antigo bowling program. People of the Antigo School District, this new conservative...
Ryan, could you speak louder so that the crowd can hear you?
Yes, sorry. This new conservative-dominated school board promised you they just needed to win an election to address numerous and vague issues plaguing our schools. When they won, however, suddenly it was deeper than that. It was administrators, and especially Dr. Sprague. When support for Dr. Sprague poured in from previous and current staff, the mayor was on top of it, calling support for her, quote, code for she is weak and lets us do what we want. In just a few months now, even down to the, in just a few months, blame shifted from the board to the administrator, now even down to the teachers. How long before they blame students and parents? How long before they accuse the LGBTQ plus students of heinous things, or students that support their teachers, or students that just disagree with them of being a problem? How long can they shift the blame? How long can they lie about this? Mayor Brand, you said it yourself in an email. Talk is cheap, and this is an opportunity to make a difference. Members of the school board, people like the mayor and some particular board members don't care about the future generations. They view them as leverage. To them, people like you aren't allies, you're expendable. You're here to feed their ambition and their ego and to deliver them their political wishes on a silver platter. As soon as you fall out of line or overstay your usefulness, they will cast you aside like a broken toy. The mayor didn't email people like he did to show you support. He did to show you his political strength, to intimidate and to coerce you back into line. Just like one member of the community, who has previously been alluded to, had called some of you out by name in a group called Antigo Advocates for Freedom and Liberty. They habitually rile up their supporters through lies, deceit, and extreme language to remind you who's really in charge. These people don't want what's best for the community, the town, or the younger generations. Their wishes are to enrich themselves, entrench themselves in positions of power, and to expand upon that power. Many communities nationwide are facing a shortage of educators, and this conservative-dominated leadership is willing to throw what resources we do have away, as far as educators go, just as long as it helps them politically. The disregard for the statements and comments of teachers is going to paint Antigo in a very poor light for new educators looking for a community to join and to educate in. The children they say they care for are likely to be pushed away by their policies, lies, and intolerance as well. If everyone from the school board to teachers are expendable to them, the children are too. And one last note, this is kind of unscripted, but due to some of the powerful testimony from some of the previous speakers tonight, I'd like to say that I am bisexual. I'm lucky enough to have had great friends when I came out my senior year here at Antigo High School, which I had waited to do because I was concerned about potential bullying or threats to my personal safety. However, if I was a student today, I don't think I'd have been able to feel safe in doing so. I think of every LGBTQ plus student with sadness based on some of your public statements. Frankly, I'd even say that I'm disgusted, disappointed, and disturbed by your words. The United States was specifically founded to be a place for everyone, of the people, by the people, for the people, not just for their people.
Ryan, you'll address the board, please, sir.
I am done, sir.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Mike Clay. And Mike, did I get that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, hey folks, my name is Michael and I'm a resident of Antigo, a graduate of Antigo High School, and the Assistant Education Director at the Langlade County Historical Society. I want to comment on the dangerous ideology permeating the school board. Now, I won't rehash a lot of what's already been said, but let me just say, I'm tired. Tired of the anger, the lies, the cynicism, tired of a system that expresses such an open and absolute disdain for humanity and all things that make this world beautiful. I'm begging you all, I'm begging you to realize, it's a lie, it's a con, it's a grift. All this stuff about critical race theory, about LGBT plus people, about the plandemic, about QAnon, everything, you've been had. You have been duped by a fundamentally evil force that hates you. They want to snuff out whatever sparks of hope, community, and life are left, not just in this town, but in this entire country. I am tired. I am tired of this world you've built and are building, a world hostile to humanity and draining to our very souls. You are the problem. Not diversity, not equity, not any of your other meaningless buzzwords. You are killing Antigo, you are killing Antigo's community, and you are killing Antigo's children. God save Antigo, and God save each of your rotten souls.
Okay, the next speaker, Chet, I know who you are, but I have never said your last name. Thank you. Say that again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chet Hotbit. For the record, I want to speak to the board about transparency. I also want to speak to you as an elected official. As an elected official, I believe I have a responsibility to point out inconsistencies, such as the fact that your agenda has no time for this beginning meeting. You also do not indicate on your agenda when you anticipate going into closed session so that the public can be here to make sure that they can monitor and actually take notice of your vote to do so. That's required by law. There's also been a public records request that was made earlier. You did an excellent job. I too make such an open records request. I want to know the cost to the citizens to buy this contract out. I'm not going to rehash everything, but I also want to say there's been some interesting discussion about diversity, equality, inclusion. I happen to be gay. 10 years ago, if somebody would have asked me, I'd have said this has been a fairly welcoming and thoughtful community. I wouldn't say that today. Today, I would tell my fellow brothers and sisters, look elsewhere. Antigo is not for us. That's sad. So I hope that we get back on track and we really start listening to one another, because we're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chet. Next, we have Mary Hayes.
Good evening. My name is Mary Hayes. I am a retired district library media specialist. I retired in 2013. I have to say I am overwhelmed by what we've been hearing from our speakers today. I'm not going to be as articulate, I'm afraid, but I'm still going to say what I have to say. So I am here to urge you to stop making vague generalities about acronyms such as CRT, DEI, and ICS. These accusations are meaningless unless you have specific examples of how they are being used to, quote, mess up our children and community, unquote, which is how Mayor Brand put it. Now there's a vague generality for you, mess up our children and community. For example, how exactly does CRT, which is a graduate level course at Harvard University, mess up our children and community? I would like the answer in writing and directly taken from the Anigo curriculum. I won't be holding my breath. After the way you have treated Dr. Sprague, do you really expect anyone qualified and competent to apply for the positions of Assistant District Administrator, Director of Pupil Services, and Principal of West Elementary? You are doing the students of Anigo no favors by spending the money to buy out a good district administrator. That money could be used to hire a couple of teachers, several support staff, etc. Dr. Sprague did as well as anyone could do under the impossible conditions you created for her. Okay. You should be focusing on how to support district staff and administration so that we can retain promising new teachers and quality veteran staff. You can begin by offering salaries competitive with neighboring districts and by treating staff members as the professionals that they are. Please focus on your job, which is providing the best education for our children, and not on culture wars. If you must be political, I suggest that you need, whoa, my hand's starting to shake. I suggest that you need to lobby your state legislators to provide more monetary aid to poor districts such as Anigo Unified School District. For instance, they could fully fund special education, something that has never been done. That would go a long way in improving our district's report card. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next, we have Ethan Roberts.
Hi, my name's Ethan Roberts, and I'm a junior at the Anigo High School. I decided to come back for the third straight month now to continue my goal of changing and exposing the Anigo High School and the school district. Last month, when I ended my speech saying I had ideas I felt would help the Anigo High School out, but I was not going to put too much time and energy into it because I knew I was not going to be valued by the Anigo High School principal. Since I made that closing statement, I've waited for, quite honestly, any board member to reach out to me regarding that. Yet not one of you took the time to even listen to me or talk to me. I not once received an email from Bobby Braun, Dave Bartle, Kristen Matt Miller, Jill Maddock Nelson, Angie Schreiber, J.D. Schrader, Andy Mary, Catherine Solon, or Danny Pyatt. So yes, I'm now angry. Yes, as a conservative myself, I will call it the conservative majority on this board, even though I'm still confused why it's being politicized on a school board. When I started my goal to expose the toxicity this district holds, I started with the idea and mindset that one person was at fault, and that was Dr. Sprague. However, I quickly realized that's not at all true, and I started to shift to feeling you, the board, are a problem. You seem quick to point fingers at Dr. Sprague. You're also quick to point fingers at our teachers and blame them. However, no responsibility is ever taken on your behalf, and you should be embarrassed because that is pretty pathetic. You have the power to make change happen, yet you fail to do so. I have read comments online from certain board members claiming with the new board, change will happen quickly. However, I can't seem to help myself but laugh at that because you are already a third of the way through the year since being elected as a new board. All I see from you is talk. I was scrolling through an article from 2 years ago when one thing specifically stood out to me, and that was when a student came to speak out against the proposed schedule at that time. Then at that time, Trina Borneman, who was a board member, stated, if we have a young person who put the legwork in, came in front of us, had that conversation, we need to reconsider it, in my opinion, because that's what we tell them to do all the time. It's the process, and they are putting that to work. That's the right thing to do, end of quote. To me, that is simple but a powerful statement that shows somebody values the student body. Us students have absolutely no power, no voice, or no value by this district, and to make matters worse, it does not help when we have a supposed leader as an administrator at the high school who fails to realize this, yet you're worried about removing Dr. Sprague. There's a reason students and teachers hate this district. We are treated like we're worthless. If there's one thing you can say I've been taught by the Antigo High School and district over the course of the last 3 years especially, that is, do not trust people in power, do not settle for less than what you are worth, and fight for what you believe in, and stand up to call out the poor, lacking, crappy leadership that is on showcase. We, the students, deserve better than what we have been given by the Antigo High School and district. We deserve a bigger voice. We deserve more strict behavior policy. We deserve to feel valued. We deserve a better bell schedule. We deserve better leaders, and we deserve a better education. I will stand up here and continue to be an advocate for my classmates and students all around. And I will not back down to any one of you or anyone in general. I will continue to make my voice loud no matter what, and how many times I need to come back, and no matter how much you are annoyed or offended by me coming back. Since last month when I spoke, there was an app called Newsbreak which has 40 million daily users. That app uploaded the story when I gave my comments. So if you think this will not continue to grow more public, you're wrong. You've been exposed on News 9 twice, the Antigo Daily Journal, social media groups, and now Newsbreak. I'm not scared to continue, and I hope that is clear because the board and district continues to run on lies and excuses. What I also hope is clear is how many students stand with me and how many teachers stand with me, because the support I have received all around has been very, very substantial, except from anyone in high power. Finally, I want to say that the board trying to get rid of Dr. Sprague is pretty ridiculous, considering you yourself have failed to do your job, and there are plenty of others in power failing, yet you turned a blind eye to that. Shame on you for that. You are absolutely low for that. And none of you that supported the departure of Dr. Sprague deserve your power, because you showed right there that you care more about yourself than you do teachers, and it shows how big your ego is. Because the amount of support Dr. Sprague had from teachers was incredible. She was a caring, knowledgeable, and passionate superintendent who was blamed for every single one of our failures, because we have board members who choose to spread misinformation and blame and refuse to take responsibility. If you're going to do this, then maybe you need to take a reality check on how you're doing at your own job. I fully accepted no longer having the respect from anyone up here, and I really do not care. I'm also tough enough to accept that and not care who dislikes me, hates me, disagrees, because nothing will come in the way of doing what's right. Because the community deserves to know how crappy you handle your business and how little you value people who don't share the same ideas. That's it.
Thank you, Ethan. Next, we have Paul Grind.
Hello, my name is Paul Grindy. I've been a resident of Antigo since 1995. I'm going to restrict my comments to just one subject, and that's the open meetings law. Mr. Brand's email that he sent out for a call for action gives the appearance of a violation of Wisconsin's open meeting law. In coming to that conclusion, I referred to the Wisconsin Open Meeting Law Compliance Guide, May of 2019, and legal comment by the Boardman and Clark LLP regarding closed sessions. Mr. Brand says most of our 7-2 majority have their finger on the trigger and are ready to pull it. How does he know that? Did he informally ask the members how they're going to vote? Or did one of the members ask others how they're going to vote? And report it to Brand? The requirements of the open meetings law extend to walking quorums. You don't have to have a quorum of people in the same room. If they're walking around the community, how are you going to vote? How are you going to vote? I think you should vote this way. That's a violation of the open meetings law because you've made the decision before the meeting. As clear as can be. But maybe he didn't do that. Maybe it was discussed in closed session. And they told Mayor Brandt that. The intent of legal closed sessions is to keep the information, discussion, and votes made in closed session from public dissemination. Accordingly, those in attendance shall keep such information confidential. Now, the open meeting law by itself really doesn't have a punishment. So that's not a big deal. However, I want to get this right. Intentional disclosure of closed session information may constitute misconduct in office, which is a felony. And such felony is a breach it can be addressed through board policy and sanctions. Additionally, board members risk losing their qualified immunity from legal action if the disclosure or confidential closed information results in litigation against a district, the board, or an individual member. So I ask you to please follow the rules, follow the closed sections. And as I look at this meeting tonight, I've got to question whether or not we've had some meetings going on because we have the announcement of Dr. Sprague's resignation and we got a new person involved. Boy, that's pretty quick. I've hired administrators. It takes a long time. We got to find people. We got to find people qualified. We got to vet them. We got to make sure they're qualified. And we can do this in a couple of days in a meeting. I question that. So I encourage you to be aware of the open meeting law and follow it. Make decisions yourself. Don't follow the herd. And the administrator's part of the answer. But in the discussion of school rankings, have you considered the salaries you're paying teachers, the quality of the facilities, the financial stability of the people in the community, and how you're going to fill this, how you can fill a position in days, hours? How can you do that? And consider the effects of negative comments made by the board on the teachers and students. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mary Kay, could you tell us where we are on the 60 minutes?
It's 7:15.
I'm sorry?
It's 7:15 right now.
When did we start the open public
7:17.
comment? 7:17?
It's 6:17.
One more. I'm sorry?
6:17 we started.
Okay. One more. We'll have one more comment, and that comes from Jill Zager-Kittawell. I know that I messed that up. Thank you, Jill. Paul, I do apologize. Yes, Mary? Okay.
No, that was me.
Sorry, Jill.
One left. This individual is the last one left to speak.
This individual is the last one to speak in the 60 minutes, and then the board can take a vote as to whether to extend or not the 60 minutes for public comment.
Okay.
And to extend, we would have to extend by a majority vote, and the person can make the motion, and in that motion, they must state the length that they want to extend the public comments.
How many more are there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 after Jill.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jill, that did not count against you.
That's okay, thank you. I just want to address the school board and just make sure that you remember that you're up there because the citizens of the Antigo School District voiced their opinion with the votes at the polls. They might not be here tonight, but they told you they wanted you to sit where you're sitting right now. So don't forget that. I also want to say, and that just came in an afterthought after, after sitting through all these speeches. What I'm going to say is just plain and simple. Of course, I didn't know about the change that, you know, that this new announcement when I did this. But I want to just read this off. This is just the statistics, and they can speak for themselves. And it's all the school districts in Wisconsin. They all have the same diversity. They all have different ethnic people. They all have different people of different denominations. It's the way of the world. It's the way, it's a mixed batch. That's what we got. So we have 1,888 students in Antigo Unified School District. And their testing rank was 1 out of 10, putting them in the 50% of public school, in the bottom 50% of public schools. Public schools in Antigo Unified School District have an average math proficiency score of 21% versus the Wisconsin public school average of 37%. And reading proficiency score is 25% versus 39% statewide average. And I'm just going to throw this in there because people think that, you know, maybe it's because we have more poverty or we have more things in this area. Minority enrollment is 15% of the student body, which is less than the Wisconsin public school average of 32%. And I also want to say that Antigo School District, which is ranked within the bottom 50% of all 439 school districts in Wisconsin based of combined math and reading proficiency testing data for 2020-2021 school year, and the district's graduation rate of 95% was pretty darn good, and I hope we keep it that way. But we're number 409 out of 443 school districts. That is a sad number. So everybody realizes what the job we have to do, which is a big one. And we're we're going in the right direction. We are making changes, and that's what we need to do. And I just want to thank you for your job, and please feel that the people did vote, and they voted for you. And they might not all be here, but trust me, they did. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Okay, I would entertain a motion from the board if you would like to continue the public comment section. I will announce that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting Ms. Jansen to come back, so that's 5 speakers left. Please give a time if you want to make a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to extend public comment by 25 minutes.
Motion has been made by Jill Maddock Nelson to extend public comment to 25 minutes. Jill, would you like to speak to your motion?
I have supported extending the time limits when our community takes their time to address our board, and I think that is the appropriate thing to do to allow all that signed up to speak tonight to speak.
Thank you. This is amendable and it is debatable, so any other board members have any comments or discussion?
I would
Mr.
like
Mayor.
to amend the motion to, instead of being 25 minutes, to continue until all that have signed up have spoken.
There's 5 left.
I realize that.
Okay, we have an amendment to the motion on the floor. Now we need to address our comments to the amendment, and Mr. Mary's amendment is to change the motion to state that we open the public comments until all members that have signed up have spoken. Is that correct, Mr. Mary?
That is correct.
Okay, we have now that motion or that amendment on the floor. Mr. Mary, would you like to speak to that amendment any further?
I agree with Jill that I would like to see all people who have signed up have the opportunity to speak, and my only concern is if we limit it to 25 minutes, that somebody may go over their time, which has happened at, previously, and the last person may not have their full opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody like to have discussion? Board members, it's hard for me to see everybody at once, so please forgive me if I don't recognize you. All right, I don't see anybody moving to their mics, so the amendment on the floor is to allow public comment to continue to the last person that has signed up to speak. That is what you will be voting on. Dustin, are we okay with the voting devices? I don't see Dustin. Somebody, oh, he just gave me the thumbs up. Okay, so you are voting for the amendment to the motion, and that is to allow public comment to complete all those that have signed up. If you are in favor, vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no. If you abstain, vote accordingly. Okay, would any member like to change their vote? All right, the vote is now closed. Dustin, can you show? And the motion carries, or the amendment carries. And now that amendment becomes the main motion. The main motion on the floor is that public comment is to continue until the final speaker that has signed up has an opportunity to speak during this public comment. Are there any discussion on this? Now, this is the main motion. I see no discussion on this. The voting is now open. If you would like to allow the public comment to continue, you would vote yes. If you would not like to allow the public comment to continue, vote no, or you may abstain. Would anybody like to change their vote? Okay, the vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Public comment will continue, and the next person up to speak is Mike Parisic. Sorry, Mike Parisic.
Good evening. I'm Mike Parisic, a career and technical education instructor here at Antigo High School. In all the years that I have been involved in education, I have never witnessed a school board conduct business the way our current board has in the past few months. I am appalled by many of your actions over the past few months. Dr. Julie Sprague deeply cared about our students' education, our staff well-being, and our community. She personally came into our schools and talked with students and staff, something I haven't seen from many people in many years. She shows up to sporting events and community activities to support our students and community. Julie acknowledged people outside of the school buildings and regular workday, as many staff were conducting their personal life in our community. These actions speak volumes of who Julie was as a person, or is as a person, yet she has come under attack by our school board and has continually been harassed. This is unacceptable, and I encourage you all to take a step back and reflect on how you have conducted yourselves the past few months. Critical race theory has been the buzz phrase at many of our recent school board meetings. When board members are asked to define this or what it means, you struggle to do so. When asked to come into classrooms to witness what is being taught, many board members do not. How can you make comments on what is being taught when you haven't come in to see firsthand what is going on in our classrooms? I encourage board members to ask our high school students about CRT and what they have learned about it in class, and I believe the responses you will get will shock you. Last week, Thursday, the school board went into a closed session meeting to interview candidates for superintendent. We currently had a superintendent who had a contract through June of 2024. It doesn't seem financially responsible to hire a new superintendent because I assume we're going to have to pay out the current contract and then we're going to have to pay another contract. Where is the funding going to come from for this? Where are the results from all the closed session meetings that have been had over the past few months? I want all board members to take a minute to think about why you are on the school board. If the response to that statement is not to enhance the learning opportunities for our students and make decisions that benefit the learners of our district, then maybe you should consider resigning from your position because you are not here for the correct reason. It is time our school board does their job, and that is to set their politically charged agenda aside and do what is best for the students in our district. Our district has lost a lot of good staff recently, from teachers, principals, administrators, and the list goes on. Currently, many staff members do not trust our school board because there is no communication, there is no transparency with anything that is going on. You all need to do better. It is okay to disagree with people on things and still work together in a respectful manner. I challenge the board to work together with the staff we have left in our district and do what's best for our learners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next, we have David Zalewski.
Thank you for extending the time. My name's David Zalewski. I'm a local pastor. I've coached the high school tennis team here for about 20 seasons, and I also substitute teach. I've been gone for a little over 2 weeks. I did not know this was going on until just recently, and I'd like to ask just a question. I'm sure some of you are feeling berated. It's easy in those circumstances to just close your ears. I know, I've done it. But do you hear what's being said? Do you feel the hurt, the struggle, the emotion? Because it's very, very real. I won't go that far. I believe you do care, okay? I served recently with Jill on a board for the Human Growth and Development Committee. Got to know you some, appreciated your comments. We definitely differed on some things, but we also were able to discuss some things. On my trip, what I do, and I've done this now a couple times, I got a little Equinox, I put a bed in it, and I travel around the country. Many of you know my wife died 2 years ago. And I play pickleball, I bike, I swim, I find some stupid place along the side of the road to sleep in. But my goal is to meet people. And I meet people everywhere I go. And I was in Casper, Wyoming about a week ago playing pickleball, and I met a lady who had taught school in an elementary school for over 40 years. And I asked her, what was your experience like teaching here in Wyoming? I said, did you feel supported by your school administration, by your school boards? She said, David, here in Wyoming, we have the most wonderful schools, and I have always, in my 40-plus years, felt supported by our state and by our local school board. Now, those of you that know politics, and this has become fairly political, unfortunately, know Wyoming is a very, very red state. And yet this lady's saying, here in this state, I have always felt supported. When I started subbing 2 years ago due to COVID, just to try to help out, it has been one of the most rewarding experiences because it opened these dumb eyes. And I grew up in a family where my father did not appreciate the role of educators in this community, often spoke against them. But in subbing and understanding day after day what teachers must do to educate our children, I gained a whole new appreciation for this profession. I also am a person that asks a lot of questions. And over I ask teachers, what are you feeling? Do you feel supported? Are you enjoying this? And teachers open up to me for whatever reason. And some of these that have left just recently told me their stories. And I don't say this to berate you, but hopefully that you open up your heart and you say, what are we doing? Wrong, right? But over and over, the overwhelming response I have received from teachers is we do not feel supported by the board or the administration, with one caveat. They all said, we do like Mrs. Sprague. I've had numerous experiences with Julie over the tenure of her job here. Recently, I had a terrible experience subbing. I won't go into the details, but it traumatized me. And I quit subbing for 2 months. But the week after this experience happened, Mrs. Sprague reached out to me personally to find out, how are you doing, Dave? Because I was hurting and I thought, I'm not going to sub anymore. I never signed up for what happened to me. But she reached out to me. I have no illusion that I'm going to change any of your minds or us here. The passion and everything that's been exhibited and expressed to you. But God, I hope that something does, that you go in the future, that your job here is supported, and that we do put the students first. And I stand here, mainly I came for one reason. I want Dr. Sprague to know David Zalewski cared enough to say, I think you're a good person. You can disagree with her policies, and probably I would, but don't impugn her character. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Our next speaker is Elaine Reed.
My name is Elaine Reed. I am a resident of Anago. I'm definitely not going to go over the 5 minutes. Mine is very short. But first, I'd just like to thank you all for, every one of you on the school board, for being willing to hold the position and to serve our community and our school children and parents this way. I am concerned about critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, and the like being promoted in our public schools. These teachings are based on lies and falsehoods and are meant to deceive, divide, and control people. These ideologies are harmful and should not be pushed in society at all, and they especially should have no place in our schools. Children go to school to learn math, English, science, and learn how to spell and read and think critically, not to be propagandized. Education ought not be politicized. And I ask the school board to take the necessary actions as they come up to see that these false and harmful ideologies are removed from our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Next, we have Bob Steemack.
Thank you for extending the time. My name is Bob Steemack. Been here all my life. Never been to a school board meeting. Never hardly watched one, okay? I graduated in 1982 in the middle school, okay, big class. I think our community has supported this school. We have a new facility, a lot of business people. There's unbelievable. You've got the McKennas, the track, cleats. I mean, you got a lot of people, Wagner's, put a lot of money into stuff. I think it's a shame that we rank where we do. As a manufacturer, I do business with every manufacturer around here. Everyone in Anago, I'd say 75% in Wausau. My business has grown from me to $3 million in sales with no salesman, no website, no nothing, just word of mouth. So I will tell you that the kids coming out of the school, there's problems because every manufacturer will tell you this, but most of them won't come here. They don't seem to be able to read a clock, okay? I mean, I barely graduated high school, by the way, barely. If Jim Laham wouldn't have took me in the office and said, Mr. Steemack, if you don't start going to silent reading, you will not graduate. And Mr. Steemack started to go to silent reading. So it just seems like the kids can't read a clock. They're unable to use a tape measure. I mean, it's amazing, you know. They're victims. They choose to be victims. It's crazy. I just can't believe that's where it's went. I am glad there's a change in the school board. you know, whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but I know you needed a change because something has to change the way it's been. As a person who's put a lot of money in this community, my money, no help, nobody gave me anything to do. I don't have problem getting help either, mind you, but it's unbelievable the people that'll apply, and this world's getting tougher. Okay, if you're not educated enough, you won't have a job, because a robot, I mean, you're robot filling a machine, easy deal. It's a year and a half payback. It's an easy deal. No health care, nobody not showing up, nobody nothing. So I just think there had to be a change. You guys do a hard job. You've been crucified all night here, and that's everybody's opinion. I applaud you for the job you're doing. As far as being a victim, okay, my daughter, when we were in second grade, we talked about bullying here tonight. There is a lot of bullying. There's going to be bullying in your whole life. You know what I mean? There is. It's how you deal with it. My daughter was in second grade, and I was approached by a lot of people in her grade in East Elementary School to approach the school to split up the kids that were in that class because they were pretty bad. Well, at least that's what they said. They were pretty bad, and they were. And I said, I will not do that because I'm not going to let my daughter be a victim. And she wasn't a victim. She survived fine, physical therapist, went the full route, runs all over the world, you know. But I could have ran to the school board and told you what you were doing wrong and move this kid and move that kid. There's always going to be a bully. And it's people should learn how to take care of themselves and stand up for themselves, you know. And then if you want to put yourself on a pedestal as a spectacle, well, you get criticism. That's how it is. So I guess that's all I had. I had other stuff, but I kind of fly off. But I know manufacturing's a tough world to be in. China's a hard world. I have business. I do business with people in China. I ship stuff to Mexico. I ship stuff to all these companies in town at places all over. They're not just in this town. But I tell you what, they all struggle with the same thing, and if they were all here, they'd tell you, and they'd all agree with me too. Quality coming out of this school isn't what it used to be. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, we will come back to Darlene Jansen.
Thank you for giving me another time. I am much calmer now.
Very good. You get to wrap it up for us.
Okay. So, before I get into one other subject, I just want to finish what I was saying about the LGBTQ and being an advocate for our students. I am here to advocate for every student. I'm here to keep them safe. Being able to support them mentally is what I do. I am a good listener. In fact, I have taken courses in listening to where I can sit and just let them talk, let them vent, let them know they're accepted. That's what's important. And if they feel they're accepted, they're going to be able to learn. And yes, if they know they're accepted and they have a safe place, they will be able to go back and deal with adversity. Isn't that what we're to teach everybody, is how to deal with adversity? And that's what I do. So being an advocate for them, like I said, maybe it's not that they're wrong. Maybe it's just that they're so right, and they're here to teach us to understand, to accept, kindness, how to love each other. I mean, that is the one rule God really has set forward for us. Love one another. Don't put them down. Don't dictate how people can treat other people. Be there for each other. You know, there's nothing wrong with the LGBTQ community. There's nothing wrong with any of them. What I see is there's something wrong with the village. The people that I know within the LGBTQ community are some of the kindest, most heartwarming people that had to struggle to be who they are. And they are also the happiest because they are able to do so, especially once they become adults. So give them a chance. Don't say we can't support them. We need to support our kids. And if I can keep one child from suicide, one child from becoming substance abuse, and trust me, I know what it's like to deal with a child who's had substance abuse, alcoholism, one child who can leave this high school with a higher self-esteem and be able to be a success once they leave here, I'm a success. Plain and simple, I'm a success. The other subject I do want to touch base on is again, yes, there has been a lot of berating of how you dealt with Dr. Sprague. I too disagree with it, and I was angered by it. Dr. Sprague was a true leader. She led by example. She led by being truthful, open-minded, fair, always being there and for being supportive. She's one of the best things that's happened to this community and one of the best things that's happened to this district. And instead of focusing on true issues, behavior issues, the fear of physical harm, intimidation, bullying, instead of focusing on the mental health issues that a lot of our kids have, some really true issues that disrespect our teachers get. Instead of focusing on that, you focus on how to remove Julie Sprague from office. How is that going to better the way things are going currently? I don't know. But Dr. Sprague, by removing her, you robbed my granddaughter out of probably one of the most positive, influential, and inspiring people that this district had. Some of you don't know, I am a parent, and I am now talking as a community member. I am raising a 13-year-old, and she will know diversity.
Thank you.
Moving on to item B, board member meeting legislative report. I would just ask if there are any board members who would make a report on any meetings or contacts that you've had with legislatures. Okay, hearing none. Item number 3. Letter number A, approval of agenda. The consent agenda, I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the agenda minutes from the June 26, 2023 Board of Education meeting, June 28 closed session meeting, July committee meeting minutes, district retirement and resignation report, report of district new hires, financial reports for July 2023, consideration of current bills, including special end of year check run, checks number 7053 through 7101, in the amount of $190,910.08. ACHs 222301341 through 232400049 in the amount of $600,804.28, and one wire transfer in the amount of $22,345.42 for a total of $814,059.78.
Motion has been made by Jill for the consent agenda. Jill, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Is there any discussion? Dr. Bardo?
Mary Kay, I have to abstain on check number 7081.
Any other discussion?
I would just like to thank all the retirees and people resigning for serving our district.
Any other discussion from board members? Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. Would anybody like to change their vote? Okay, the voting is now closed. Dustin will reveal the results. Okay, we have 8 yeses and no nos, and the motion carries. Item 4, new business, NorthLakes Community Clinic Dental Program. From what I understand, and maybe Katie Ann or Jake can speak to this, this is every year we give this report of the NorthLakes Community Clinic. It is at no cost to the district. If you would open up the tab that shows the number of students. Katie Ann, can you help me with this report?
Yeah,
Thank you.
so we partner with NorthLakes Dental Clinic yearly. They come in at a no charge and they provide services to all of our students. I believe for K through 12th, as long as you're 18 years or younger. Upon consent from the parents, they can be provided dental care along with sealants for their teeth. This year, we 582 students received care, 485 teeth were sealed, 1,644 fluoride varnishes were applied, and those students or those families were saved $127,530 by partnering with NorthLake Dental Clinic. So it's I believe, a good service for our community and for our students.
Thank you, Katie Ann. Are there any questions or comments from the board members? No, that's for information that does not require action. We will move to item 5, board action. Letter A, consideration to approve second reading of NEOLA policy 5517, student anti-harassment. I would be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the second reading of the NEOLA policy 5517, student anti-harassment revision as presented.
Motion has been made by Bobby. Bobby, would you like to speak to your motion?
We made some grammatical changes to this policy and reviewed this during committee. And I believe it's prepared and ready for board approval.
Thank you, Bobby. Is there any questions from board members? Any questions from the board members on the motion that's before you? This is the second reading. Should this pass tonight, it will go into our policy manual. Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. If you are in favor of the motion on the floor, you may say yes. If you're not in favor, say no. Would any member like to change their vote? The voting is now closed. Destin? We have 7 yeses and 1 no, and the motion carries. Item B, consideration to approve second reading of new NEOLA policy 8802, patriotic activities and observances. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the second reading of the new NEOLA policy 8802, patriotic activities and observances as presented.
Motion has been made by Bobby. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I do not need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any board member like to discuss or have questions about the policy and the motion that's on the floor? Once again, would anybody like to discuss the motion on the floor? If this motion passes, this is the second reading and it will become part of the policy manual. Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. If you're in favor of, yes. If you are opposed, no. Would anybody like to change their vote? The voting is now closed, Dustin, and the motion carries 7-1. Item letter C, consideration to approve ARUBA software purchase. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the ARUBA software purchase for $32,347.
Motion has been made by Dr. Bardo. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, but I would prefer that Mark come down and explain to the board what he talked to us about at the Finance Committee, and to further let everyone know he's not taking a trip to Aruba.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi, thank you. This software will help protect our servers, our data, and everything from the inside and out. This is actually using an AI software driven to watch our district's switches and inside and out, with somebody coming in from the outside trying to hack into us and somebody from the inside trying to hack into our data servers. I know it's a very expensive piece of software, but I have a window that I can pay for it out of my own budget, because next year is our last year of using EFFA funds and everything to purchase the laptops and everything from that. So I'm asking the board to allow us to jump into the world of AI and protecting our software and our data a little bit harder.
Mark, wasn't it true that starting in year 2, the upgrades will only be like $1,700?
Right, yes, and that was one thing I didn't double check with Mary Kay on the total that I'm asking. Since I talked to the committee, there's been a price change, and for $2,500 I can actually get 3 years initially instead of just the 1 year for the $32,370. For another $2,500 I can get 3 years. It seems to me that it would be a well spent $2,500 to get 3 years opposed to the 1 year. Right.
Okay, so the new total is, Mark?
$34,857 for a 3 year.
We will have to amend that motion, because the motion already states 32,000.
Yes, so it's 34,785?
34,857.
Okay. Nothing like transferring 3 numbers wrong. Okay, so I'm going to make the amendment to the motion to purchase the ARUBA software for $34,857.
Motion is on,
which will give us 3 years. Now, just for clarification, I'm going to speak to the amendment.
Hold 1 second. The amendment now on the floor for all discussion is I move the board approve the ARUBA software purchase for $34,857. Dr. Bardo, you can bring that clarification.
Okay. If we would be adding the $1,700 for the next 2 years, that's $3,400. And instead getting 3 years for $2,500.
Right.
So we're saving $900.
Correct. And I'm hoping at that time that USAC will, there's been talk that USAC is going to start letting us use E-rate monies to pay for some of the security part of the districts, because there's been so many problems with hackers and everything across the United States that the districts need some money to help pay for it, because it's an extremely expensive venue to try and protect your data. So.
Okay, the amendment on the floor is what we need to direct our discussion toward, and that is the amendment of the cost of $34,857. Is there any discussion for the amendment that's on the floor? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open for the amendment of I move the board approve the ARUBA software purchase for $34,857. If you're in favor of, yes. If you are opposed, no. Though we don't see our names, we know there's 8 votes there. Would anybody like to change their vote?
It's already up.
And the vote is displayed. Yes, that amendment now carries. It becomes the main motion. The motion on the floor now is I move the board approve the ARUBA software purchase for $34,857. Is there any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. And the vote is now closed. Let me back up. Did anybody want to change their vote? I got a little ahead of myself, Dustin. Okay, nobody wants to change their vote. Now the vote is closed and the motion carries. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep, thank you.
Item D, consideration to approve Fund 10 transfer to the Long Capital Improvement Trust Fund, Fund 46. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the Fund 10 transfer to the Long Capital Improvement Trust Fund, Fund 46, as presented.
Dr. Bartle made the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, I'm going to ask Katie Ann to come forward and explain it to everyone.
Thank you. Katie Ann?
Thank you. So after a lot of review and grinding of numbers at the end of this year, an unaudited amount that I am projecting that we are going to transfer is $450,000. And that is what I'm looking for approval for tonight, to go from Fund 10 to Fund 46. Any questions?
Questions or discussion for Katie of the motion on the floor of transferring the funds from Fund 10 to Fund 46 in the amount of $450,000. Hearing and seeing no discussion, the voting device is now open. If you're in favor, yes. Opposed, no. Would anybody like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. And we have 8 yes and 0 no. The motion carries. Item letter E, consideration to approve the 2022-2023 budget adjustment. I will be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to refer it back to committee.
Motion on the floor is to refer this item, consideration of the 22-23 budget adjustment, back to committee. Dr. Bardo, would you like to speak to that motion?
I'm going to pass it off to Katie Ann.
All
Katie
right.
Ann?
So back in March, if you guys remember, the ones who are on the board, we did an amended budget request that was approved and pushed through. Due to that being in March, things are pretty clean right now, and we don't need one at the current moment. And so I am asking to refer it back to committee, so that way if auditors find a need to produce an amended budget, I will bring that in August. But at this time, we're within tolerance to not need it.
Okay, is there any discussion of the motion on the floor? And that is to refer this item back to the Finance Committee. Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. If you're in favor of referring back to committee, yes. If you're not, no. Would anybody like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. Dustin? The motion carries 8-0. It will be referred back, Mary Kay, to the first item on the agenda at the next Finance Committee meeting. Thank you. Item F, consideration to approve staff substitute pay rate increase. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the staff substitute pay rate increase as presented.
Motion has been made by Ms. Brown. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I do not. Katie can
We'll,
offer.
we'll refer back to Katie Ann.
So I'm just going to go over the changes that were made.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
the first change that was made is for our food service position, our pay rate for substitutes for food service. That will go from $10 an hour to $12 an hour to be consistent with the rest of our IA, library clerk, secretary, custodian, and housekeeping substitute pay rates. Other than that, if you jump down to the teacher substitute rates, it is no secret. It is quite tough to get substitutes to come in and be consistent and make sure that our classes are covered on a daily. So I am looking to take the short-term pay rate for substitutes to a flat, no tiered amount, to a flat $140 a day. That is very competitive and I think completely justifiable for asking those substitutes to come in and sub for us. The long-term pay rate, I would like to increase from $175 a day to $190 a day. And long-term is if they are substituting for a straight 10 consecutive days in the same classroom. So it's for medical leaves normally. And then our half-day rate, if our short-term pay rate goes to $140, our half-day rate will increase to $70 for a half-day. Any questions?
Katie Ann, whenever you say those are competitive, that's within our CISA 9?
Correct.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion before you? Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. Would anybody like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. And the motion carries 8 yes and 0 no. Item G, consideration to approve 2023-2024 employee handbook. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the 2023-2024 employee handbook as presented.
Motion has been made by Ms. Maddock Nelson. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I know this was discussed in committee, and I would defer it to a committee member to speak more directly.
Would any committee members of the policy committee and personnel committee like to speak to this motion? Okay, hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. If you're in favor of the employee handbook, yes. Would anybody like to change their vote? The voting is now closed. And we have 7 in favor and 1 opposed. The motion carries.
Yes, who the one opposed is?
Who is number 6, Dustin?
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. We lost our names. Letter H, consideration to approve high school, middle school, and elementary school student handbooks. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the high school, middle school, and elementary school handbooks as presented.
Motion has been made by Ms. Matt Miller. Would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Yeah, we initially discussed these at the Pupil Services Committee, still. And they took in our recommendations and made some adjustments that we had asked, so I am grateful for that, and they look good.
This actually went through 2 committees, the Pupil Services as well as the Policy Personnel Committee. Any other discussion?
I have a question regarding
ma'am.
the
Bobby?
high school student handbook. It does say draft on there, and I noticed that in the handbook, there are several email links that aren't actual links. And then also page 21 has, I'm just wondering if the draft, if that is not actually a final copy at this point. If Clint could, policies on
Thank
page
you, Mr.
21
Rogers.
aren't linked either.
We have it as a draft until the board does approve it. So I can definitely check those links that are in there. But I would also like to draw attention to the superintendent's message that will need to be adjusted.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers, for pointing that out. I was going to make that announcement that the superintendent's message in both the employee handbooks as well as all student handbooks will be adjusted as soon as possible.
So are we able to approve them like that without an amended motion?
Ms. Brown, you can make that amendment of motion into a motion, or we can just do consensus because of the change of our leadership. Is that what you're referring to?
In addition to the changes that Clint talked about with those links. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Can we give Mr. Rogers the latitude to make sure those links are live? And if not, we will deal with that in the policy committee to make sure that they are live.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So what we'll do is Mr. Rogers and his staff will make sure that those links are corrected and live. And policy committee, please be sure to check that before your next meeting. Mary Kay, if you'll put that on the agenda so we can double check, but we can pass those handbooks in the way that they are so they can go to print and be ready for school starting soon. Any other discussion? Okay, the voting device is now open. All in favor? Yes. Thank you for those names. Would anybody like to change their vote? The voting device is now closed, and the motion passes. Letter I, consideration to approve bus contract addendum changes. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the changes to the Malliette Bus Company contract addendum as presented.
Motion has been made by Dr. Bardo. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I'm going to have Katie come up again and explain. It's just basically verbiage that will help the Malliette company in dealing with their people who work for them.
Thank you, Katie Ann.
Yes, so absolutely no rates have changed whatsoever. It was just verbiage under the van/suburban rate and the curricular, co-curricular, and field trip rates. If you look under those, the second line says hourly average cost per hour. We actually, in one of them, they had hourly average cost per driver, and we don't want it tied to wage. And it really is not a wage. It is what we are charged per hour for usage of that vehicle and for whatever personnel is driving that vehicle. So with that being said, we just made it consistent among those two categories and used the hourly average cost per hour, which gives it just more clarity in billing, as well as it doesn't denote a wage. That's not for us to decide. So.
Thank you, Katie Ann. Any questions regarding the motion that is on the floor? Hearing no questions or discussion, the voting device is now open. Would anybody like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. And the motion passes. Letter J, consideration to approve athletic trainer agreement with Aspirus Langlade Hospital. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the 2023-2024 athletic trainer agreement with Aspirus Langlade Hospital as presented.
Motion has been made by Ms. Maddock Nelson. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would just like to share my appreciation and support for this contract continuing. I think our district more than benefits from our athletic trainer, who more than likely goes above and beyond what is within this contract, and is a significant supporter to our student athletes, our students, and the success of our district. So I think that's noteworthy to say because she's gone above and beyond for countless years, and has probably been under-recognized for that. So I support the contract as presented.
Thank you. Any other discussion from any of the board members? Hearing no discussion, the vote is now open. You're in favor, yes? Opposed, no? Would anybody like to change their vote? And the vote is now closed. And the motion carries. Letter K, consideration to approve the 2023-2024 academic standards. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the academic standards for the 2023-2024 school year.
Motion has been made by Dr. Bardo. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, this comes from the Department of Public Instruction, so it's something we do every year.
Thank you, Dr. Bardo. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Would anybody like to speak to the motion on the floor? Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. Would anybody like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Item L, report of donations. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board accept the following donations: $300 from Co-Vantage Credit Union for AHS Skills USA, and $300 from Charities Aid Foundation of America, Constellation for AHS Woodworking Class, for a total of $600.
Motion has been made by Ms. Maddock Nelson. Would you like to speak to your motion?
On behalf of the board, thank you to the donors.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion on the floor? Hearing no discussion, the voting device is now open. Would anybody like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Item number 6, closed session. Consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the Board of Education has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, including administrators' salary increases. I would be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Ms. Maddock Nelson. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing no discussion on the motion on the floor, Mary Kay, roll call vote, please.
Bardo?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Maddock Nelson?
Yes.
Matt Miller?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Schreiber? Solon?
Yes.
And Pyatt?
Yes. Okay, the Board of Education is now in closed session. I will make the announcement that the board will be moving up to the boardroom for this closed session, and that's the Media Tech room. And we will come back down to this room to make the announcements of coming back into open session. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your decorum tonight. We are now back in open session. As a result of closed session, we have discussed the administrative raises and will notify the administrators of their raise accordingly. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Brown. Any other discussion? All in favor of adjournment, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, and then it's carried. Meeting adjourned at 9:43. Everybody take your name tags down to Mary Kay. Please.